Hello there everybody and welcome back to Movie Squirm. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 1990 film The Exorcist 3, and this is directed by William Peter Blatty, yes, the author of the novel of the first movie, and this stars George C. Scott, Ed Flanders and Brad Dourif. This tells the story of Detective Kinderman trying to track down a serial killer whose killings seem to correlate with the Gemini killer from years earlier, who was eventually put to death. Meanwhile, a mental patient claims to be the Gemini killer and even knows details of all the murders that are occurring. And by the way guys, don't forget to check out my other Exorcist movie reviews in the link down below in the description. Well, I had said so many great things about The Exorcist 3, and thankfully it forgets all about the dreadful second film and is a direct sequel to the original. So what did I think of The Exorcist 3? Let's find out. Well, like The Exorcist 2, this film goes in a bold new direction, but unlike The Exorcist 2, it executes it a hell of a lot better here. Now, I do like the story that is attached to this movie, and even though it does feel very different to the original film, it still feels like an Exorcist sequel and belongs in that universe that that movie takes place in. And I thought this was a really good idea to explore the friendship of Kinderman and Father Dyer a little bit more here. Not the biggest characters in the original film by any means, and they only really form a friendship by the end of that first movie. And even though this is set 15 years after that, it still feels like we're carrying on the storyline, even though it's a big time period that took place there, because that's where the first film ended. And the fact that these are the two smaller characters in the movie, instead of just asking Linda Blair to come back and Ellen Burstyn and doing something with them and going with these two characters, felt like a very fresh idea, especially back in 1990. And The Exorcist 3 really pulls you in with its gritty storytelling, like all good detective movies too. That's what it is. It focuses a lot on the detective side of things here. But there's a little supernatural side to this, which just gives us that extra little punch when priests are being killed in confession boxes by something on the other side that sounds like a demonic voice, but it's actually in the form of a human. I think that just oozes sinister storytelling. And there's a lot of mystery surrounding this story. I'm willing to bet audiences in 1990 just didn't see this movie coming whatsoever. I bet they thought the worst after the dreadful second sequel. But even though it has a lot of elements from the first movie, it's nothing really quite like it. It's totally different, and it just pulls you along for the ride. But like I said, there's a sense of mystery, and you're always wondering what's going on. You're thinking, why did this happen? What does that mean? What are these little clues adding up? You're kind of like Detective Kinderman along the way, and you are absolutely in until the end, because you want to find out all them answers. But speaking of that sinister edge that this movie has, there's a jump scene here that is absolutely masterfully done, masterfully crafted, if you like. And I had seen this jump scare beforehand going in, but I still wasn't quite sure when it was exactly going to happen. And it doesn't really rely on lots of sound effects or zoomed in shots to build it up. It's just a very quiet moment, and it does linger for a long time before it actually happens. And I just think that back in 1990, this is done way better than a lot of jump scares are done today. I would have loved to see the audience reactions back then. I bet a lot of the cinema jumped out their seats. But I was watching this with my wife, and she's watching a lot of horror movies with me, man, but I could tell she was a little bit shook up off this scene. It's absolutely brilliant the way it's done. And it's weird to think that this guy, who is mainly a novelist, put one of the best jump scares ever put to film in this movie. In fact, he's only ever made 2 films, this being one of them. And the way he's directed it is quite upsetting, really, that he didn't go on to direct more movies, because he sure as hell knows where to point the camera. So William Peter Blatty is a talented guy for sure. George C. Scott just looks like he belongs in film. He is a great lead protagonist. He just is very strict, has this very straight to the point personality, and he isn't afraid to delve into the macabre. There's one point where Father Damien Karras, his friend from 15 years ago, turns up in a cell block. And he knows for a fact this guy's dead, but in the back of his mind, he knows something sinister might be going on with this case. And he's just got to get in that cell with him, kind of put his life in danger, really, because, you know, some bad shit is happening in this movie, but he just gets in there and knows what has to be done, pulls his sleeves up and tries to get to the bottom of it. He's a great detective, like all the great detective films should have, a great lead detective. He is one in The Exorcist 3 for sure. And this is where another big standout performance is in Brad Dourif as the Gemini killer, who's just ranting and raving in this cell. And I love how George C. Scott just stands back and let us scream his lungs out there. But this is where we kind of learn what is actually going on in this story and what's happening with all these murders and stuff. And it makes the story quite impressive for how ambitious it actually is with what Brad Dourif's character's telling us here. And when he does rant and rave, I do hear Chucky a lot, but that just adds to the charm for me as a huge Chucky fan.
The Gemini is dead. No, I am not! I'm alive! I go on! I breathe! Look at me!
It feels like the ultimate battle on Earth between good and evil taking place in the present day here, because when we hear of the details of these killings, there's some really gruesome and graphic stuff going on here, like something only a demon or something truly evil could commit. And it just feels like this thing is not going to stop at anything, which gives the film a much more darker tone than it already had. Now, I must admit, I did get a little bit lost in the last 30 minutes of this film. This was a first time viewing for me, remember? And it's all when Brad Dourif is kind of explaining things, and then the movie just picks up very, very quickly and moves at a very fast pace towards the climax. And I'm just going to admit to you guys now, I kind of scratched my head a little bit. I went and looked up the ending, what it all meant, and I thought, oh yeah, okay. Then I rewound it back to the last 30, and when Brad Dourif is explaining the things in the cell, it starts to click and make a lot more sense. So you might not get this the first time, and you've really got to listen to every single word the Gemini killer says here to fully get the ending there. I feel personally, I did get a little bit lost in that third act. By the way, though, that scene with the nurse in Kinderman's house, that was friggin' awesome and quite scary. And the slow-paced story and everything that's going for worked really well here. I just would have liked a little bit of a better payoff. But this is a film that far surpasses the second movie. And that shouldn't even be in the same conversation, really, which is a bit of a shame because I feel like this didn't get talked about enough because the second movie was that bad. I imagine a lot of people didn't bother with The Exorcist 3 back in the day, but thankfully for social media and stuff, this is starting to gain a little bit more popularity these days and a lot more recommendations. Now, I've got to admit, I didn't love it as much as a lot of people, but this is still a good, dark tale that explores very dark corners of religion. I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie now. I'm going to give The Exorcist 3 a 7.5 out of 10. Now, this was the theatrical cut, guys. But next time I revisit this film, I will probably watch the Legion cut. I know there's more Exorcist movies planned for future, so round about then you might see an Exorcist 3 Legion cut review on this channel. Okay guys, at the end of these reviews I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now a fun fact for The Exorcist 3 is that William Peter Blatty actually wanted to call this movie Legion after the novel he wrote, but the movie studio wanted to call this The Exorcist 3 for commercial reasons. Okay guys, hope you all enjoyed this review. Don't forget to check out my other Exorcist reviews in the link down below. What did you think of The Exorcist 3? Are you a fan? Are you not a fan? Is the Legion cut any better? Let me know and we'll get a bit of a discussion going in the comments. If horror is your sort of thing, please give this video a like and subscribe to this channel. It will really help me out. Thank you so much. You all take care and I'll see you on the next video.